The next basic position that you really have to know is Lucenia's position, first analysed by him in 1497. We see that White's pawn is just one step away from queening. But at the moment, the king blocks the pawn, and the king can't step out because these squares are covered by Black's rook, and of course on the other side can't step out because of the king. There are actually two winning methods here, and it's important, I think, to understand both of them. So, okay, first the classic Lucena method of building a bridge. So first of all, we check Black's king as far away as possible. And that allows White's king to step out. But if the king steps out immediately, it just gets checked all over the place. So, for example, king here. So we check with a rook. And again, it's a situation where White's king lacks cover. Black's rook has good checking distance. It's not going to be hassled by White's king. And you can just keep on checking that king. Nothing doing. And then simply go back behind the pawn. So before we bring the king out, we have to make sure that it's going to have cover, and we can do that by just moving the rook forward. Rook g4. This is the classic method. It looks like a strange move, but basically that rook is going to shield White's king. Black can't do anything really in this position, so okay, the rook waits, and now the king heads out. There's a threat even of a rook checkmate at the side of the board here. So Black's rook has to check. Of course, the threat is to queen as well. Again, a threat to queen, so the rook has to keep checking. And here, well, Black really has nothing better than just to check. If you don't check, then White's rook could come here and then just come over to e5, for example, and win very easily. Okay, so if the rook checks, now the king steps onto the e-file, and threat is to queen, and if rook check, then the rook comes in between, and the pawn queens on the next turn, and of course Black's king is too far away to stop the pawn. Okay, so that's method number one. Method number two is also very important to know, because sometimes you can use one, depends on the position, sometimes use the other. Okay, so here's the second method, rook a2. The idea is we're going to put the rook on d8, and that forces the rook out of the way, and then we can step out with the king. Okay, let's see how it works in practice. So rook here, rook a8. Black can't do anything, so let's suppose king g7, and now rook d8. And the rook moves to the side, and now the king steps out of the way, and there's simply no defense to e8 queening. If the king, well, doesn't make any difference. We can check. King just comes away, and if you go back, it's just a queen, and you can keep checking the king, but the king just advances towards the rook, and then you can queen on the next turn. Okay, are there better defences? Well, let's try advancing the king. Doesn't really make any odds. Okay, we can still go for this method with a rook d8. If the king comes forward, okay, now it makes a bit of a difference. Rook d8 won't work. Actually, it might work. But the simplest way after king here is just to play king f8, and then we get a queen on the next turn. Yeah, if rook h1, okay, be careful. Mate threat, well, we can just check Black's king away and get a queen on the next turn. So, two methods of winning when the pawn is on the 7th, and the king can't emerge immediately. Lucenia's position, very, very important indeed.